Welcome back to Extreme Homes. We're off next to the middle of a tropical rainforest in Puerto Rico. Now, some people might try to protect themselves from a climate that features several downpours a day, but Enrique Martí's father had just the opposite idea in mind, so he built a home that takes in as much of his environs as possible.
We're in Barrio Cubuy. It's right next to the rainforest El Yunque. We're at one of the highest points in the mountains of Puerto Rico. It's pretty sure to rain every day. Sometimes 3, 4, 5 times for periods of 20 or 30 minutes, and then it'll stop. And a couple hours later it'll come back again. In Puerto Rico, you go out almost anywhere. If it's raining, you go out for 10 seconds and you're soaked.
Getting soaked might not sound like much fun to you, but it surely did to Enrique's father, Kiki. He'd been a city dweller his whole life, living in the capital city of San Juan, and he wanted to get away. For him, this was heaven. In order to build their weekend home, the Martís cleared a little space out of the jungle, but only a little. Then Kiki began building an odd little structure that took its own place among the treetops. Have you ever played pool in a treehouse? That's exactly what the Martís do in their elevated outdoor family room.
Out here we have what we call a deck, and it has become a family room, but I guess it just kept the name deck because it didn't have a roof. It was just a deck when it got started.
From certain angles, the structure actually looks like it's a tree itself. It also looks a little rickety, but don't be fooled. It's actually survived 12 hurricanes. The support beams for the deck lifted almost defiantly high off the ground. Of course, the rainforest finally did force them to put a roof over the room, but they still didn't enclose it. Instead, they constructed a strange aluminum covering that was designed to look like an airplane hangar. Well, they certainly would have a good view up here to spot any incoming flights. Of course, that roof wasn't enough to keep the jungle from making its presence known. This is one house that really blooms.
There's this flower called miramelindas that have overtaken the ceiling, and we've let those because they look pretty. This house requires a lot of maintenance in the sense that the jungle overtakes the house.
Still, Kiki Martí never thought of his surroundings as troublesome. To him, the jungle was a favorite companion, and he gladly opened his home to it. Like their open-air family room, the Martís' dining room is on the wide-open veranda in front of the main building.
That's where we have our meals. It's outside, and it's again to get in touch with nature.
In fact, Kiki's love for the jungle was so strong, he practically created his own personal arboretum.
He would put signs everywhere to identify what type of tree he had, or just to give a name to an area. There's a sign that says Cubuy Forest, and there is no such thing as Cubuy Forest, but he wanted to give it a name and put a sign on it. Some of them, he got the scientist's name of some trees and he marked those.
And that's just one of the idiosyncrasies that Mr. Martí showed in building his dream house. There are some interesting quirks inside too. For instance, you might have a hard time locating some of the family's appliances. They're all hidden away. Why? Well, maybe it's so visitors can focus their attention on the rather bizarre decor in the living room.
There's this wall that is evidence of those things that my father likes to hang everywhere. And that wall in particular is full of tools, like farming tools.
Downstairs in the bedrooms, the women in the family took over the decorating, and they created a much more beautiful and practical feature.
In all the beds, you will see a mosquitero, which is to cover you from the mosquitoes which do bother at night. We like to make them not just practical but pretty, and it makes it look medieval and romantic. It's part of the theme of the country house, if you like to say. My mother and grandmother helped make them.
Enrique and his brothers spent most every weekend inside those nets while growing up, and the family still gathers at the house on a regular basis. Even though their father is no longer with them, the many fond memories remain, and Enrique promises us that soon a whole new generation of Marti kids will be enjoying Kiki's vision.
We feel him alive in every place. It's very dear to us, and there's no thought of ever selling this, just passing it on and passing his legacy.
And what more could anyone ask from a dream home?